to the details now. The National Democratic Congress, NDC, says the Electoral Commission's suggestions to the party to table its proposed electoral reforms before the IPAC is unfounded. According to General Secretary of the NDC, Asiedu Nketia, the party is shocked at the position of the EC because it had promised to look at the reforms and take a decision, only to hear in the media that the EC says they should go to IPAC. At a media briefing today to discuss the reforms, Asiedu Nketia said the party cannot go to IPAC because that platform itself is problematic and requires immediate fixing.
If you are sick with a lighter ailment and you are advised to go to a hospital that is COVID infested, what will be your reaction? Part of our suggestion is to reform IPAC and take it back to the original reasons why IPAC was set up. So if it is adopted, everybody will go to IPAC to find resolution. But if the IPAC is not delivering on the reasons why it was established, it will amount to plowing the sun, if you ask me to go back to IPAC. And of all the people who are suggesting the IPAC route, none of them amuses me more than that which was coming from the commission itself. Have you noted the number of times that the commission has told political parties that IPAC is toothless? IPAC cannot suggest anything to them. They have absolute independence. So is it the same commission that is saying that now let us go to that useless body to discuss what? And what will the outcome represent? So Electoral Commission never ceases to amuse some of us, honestly. On one hand, they will say IPAC cannot dictate anything to us. And when we are saying the population that put you there, let us discuss these things and let's get them implemented, we are still calling that we should go back to IPAC. When they said they were not working with IPAC and they established the Committee of Eminent Persons, fortunately the chairman of our committee is from the Committee of Eminent Persons, and I'm sure he may wish to call a meeting at which these proposals will be tabled.
Let's look at some of the details of the NDC proposal. The party wants IPAC to get legislative backing, and the EC is split into two in order to separate its regulatory and operational functions of the commission. Nana Tudazi, who is chairman of the party's technical committee on reforms, explained why.
In the first, we propose that members of the EC should be appointed by the president in consultation with the Council of State and with the prior approval of Parliament, provided that the chairperson shall be approved by 2/3 of all the members of Parliament. Now we draw attention to a similar independent institution of the Constitution, the Supreme Court, whose members are similarly appointed on the advice of the Judicial Council or in consultation with the Council of State as appropriate, but in all cases with the prior approval of Parliament. In our second flagship recommendation, we propose to the NDC party that the Inter-Party Advisory Committee, that's the IPAC, should be backed by legislation, and that its composition and functions should be clearly spelled out in the legislation. We draw attention to a similar independent body in the Constitution, the judiciary, whose Judicial Council also has its composition and functions spelled out, both in the Constitution and in legislation. In the NDC's third flagship recommendation, we propose that ultimately the EC itself should be split into two separate and distinct bodies. One, Office of the Regulator of Political Parties, ORPP, responsible for the registration and regulation of political parties.
My colleague Kweku Asante was at this news conference and joins us with details. Kweku, the NDC still believes some political parties must be shown the exit from IPAC, or at least not given equal voting rights as the parties who are very active in the political space. Tell us more.
All right, Ernest. You know, the NDC have been up in arms for a while now against smaller political parties who they say are in bed with the governing New Patriotic Party and the Electoral Commission to vote against them during IPAC meetings. You know, during the tenure of Madam Jane Mensah, decisions at IPAC are subject to vote. But the NDC says some of these smaller political parties are not qualified enough to be able to take decisions for elections that they themselves will not be contesting in. And so they are trying to make recommendation that these reforms that they are putting out must ensure that political parties, smaller political parties, that may not be able to contest the election, the Electoral Commission must take measures to be able to seek them out. So according to Nana Atudazi, this will ensure that political parties that are worth their salt and the political parties that can actually contest for election are the ones that will be in operation.
We can take a listen to Nana Atudazi on this point.
They raise issues with us for our silence on the issue of the increasing monetization of electoral politics, which they think is deafening. They also propose the creation that the proposed Office of the Regulator of Political Parties, ORPP, should be redesignated Multi-Party Democracy Commission, MPDC, with an expanded mandate to address the pathologies of the political system and to monitor the health of Ghana's democracy, especially in periods in between elections. They also propose that our proposed name, ORPP, should be changed to Political Parties Regulatory Commission.
Kweku Asante is still with me on Zoom. Kweku, the party, despite several months, is still holding on to their claim that the 2020 election was heavily flawed.
Right. So according to General Secretary of the party, Asiedu Nketia, although they went to court and the Supreme Court actually ruled that the election was credible, they still have found some bottlenecks that actually jostled them to be able to put together a technical team headed by Nana Atudazi as well as Professor Kwame Ahoy to be able to come up with this recommendation. They say that while some of these recommendations in and of themselves have been in the system for a while, some of these issues that came up are what they gleaned from the 2020 election. And they believe that these 34 proposals that they are putting out, if they are able to implement them, then the success of future elections in the country will be something that other African countries and other countries around the world will be coming to learn. And so they still insist that the 2020 election was heavily flawed. We can listen to General Secretary Asiedu Nketia.
It is trite knowledge that all is not well about our elections in Ghana. Some of the problems began as far back as 1992. Some have got solutions along the way. And for each passing election from the 1992 elections, we thought we were making progress because each election represented an improvement on the previous elections until 2020 came. And you agree with me that 2020 elections has been one of the worst elections that we have had in the history of the Fourth Republic. We did our part as a political party to resolve some of the problems without success.
Let's do some more on this story. Dr. Kwame Asasante is a senior political science lecturer at the University of Ghana, and he joins us on Zoom. Doc, thank you very much for your time here on Joy News Prime. Do you take the EC's position that the NDC's proposal must be tabled before IPAC, although the party insists that IPAC is problematic?
Oh, I think the appropriate forum is the IPAC. The NDC should be able to go there and then have a conversation with the stakeholders. And I think they will do themselves good if they go to that forum.
Let's look at the proposals. The asking that the Electoral Commission be appointed with prior parliamentary approval, is that something you subscribe to?
Oh, yes, I support that. That proposal is apt in the sense that if you look at appointment of Electoral Commission members, the President will appoint in consultation with Council of State under Article 70, Clause 2 of the 1992 Constitution. It is possible for a President to appoint some people which the Council of State may reject. Remember, Council of State is an advisory body. Whatever they advise, it is incumbent on the President to either accept or reject it. All right. So I believe that if you allow the people's representative, which is members of the Parliament, to vet those people, it is nothing but the best. I support this proposal, this point, for instance.
What is your take on the suggestion that the EC must be split in terms of functions? So we have what they call a body that deals with the regulatory aspects of political parties, dealing with political parties and making sure that they live up to expectation. And then another body, the EC proper, that will then deal with the operations of the EC, running elections. What do you make of that proposal?
I disagree with the NDC vehemently in the sense that then we are likely to create a rivalry body within the EC. Remember that the EC, part of its responsibility to, administer these administrative processes and measures, all right? So it is part of its mandate to assign people to do that work. But if you want to separate them, strictly speaking, then I'm afraid you are going to create a rivalry body, and that will create problems for us. I believe that that point, they must drop that.
And just before you go, the EC had said that it referred to IPAC because it believes that it needs to build consensus on these issues of reforms and policy, and they need the buy-in of other political parties. But it appears the relationship between the EC and the opposition has been quite turbulent. How do you advise, being major stakeholders in the electoral process, how do you advise that they work amicably going forward?
It is incumbent upon all the members of IPAC, including EC, the stakeholders, to sit down and and discuss issues that will near to the benefit of the commission. All right. There is no point, trying to hold an entrenched position if you really want to table a motion for people to consider. So I think that, yes, NDC has a case. They should be able to go to IPAC and table it. And then EC will also sit down with them in conjunction with other members of IPAC so that they look at the issues and discuss them properly, so that at the end of the day, the state will be the most beneficiary of all these processes. Let us remember that if you have a very solid electoral system, you are going to, engender confidence within the political system. And at the end of the day, whoever goes to election and loses will accept defeat and abide by the rules of the game.
Doc, I'm grateful that you could join us. That's Dr. Kwame Asasante, a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana's Political Science Department.